Welcome back, fellow football fanatics. It's College Football with Sam, and today I am going to give you 5 reasons why the Michigan Wolverines will beat the Washington Huskies Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time for all of you Husky fans. Michigan actually opened up very briefly on Sunday morning as a favorite. Then the line reopened up at Washington minus 2.5. It's sitting 2.5, 3 right now. I predicted Michigan to win this game 27-17, and I'll be giving 5 reasons why Michigan will win this game today. And then in next 48 hours, there will be a video coming out giving you 5 reasons why the Washington Huskies will beat the Michigan Wolverines in this matchup. You won't want to miss that, so subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when that video releases, when any of my preview and prediction videos or 5 reasons why a certain team will win videos drop. And let's get the ball rolling here. And I want to start off with reason number 1, that being Michigan has a complete mismatch, a big advantage in the trenches. This season, Michigan has ran for 974 yards, averaging 5.1 yards per carry and 8 touchdowns on 190 attempts. They only allow, meanwhile, 68.8 opponent rushing yards per game and an average of 2.8 opponent yards per carry. Of course, those numbers in totality are not adjusted for the fact that Michigan has a vicious pass rush when healthy. So that number's really closer to 3 or maybe 3.1 opponent yards per carry. And I just look at Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, and then Miles Hinton, Evan Link at offensive tackle. I look at Dominic Judice and Greg Crippen at center, and then Giovanni El-Hadi and Josh Preeb at guard. And I really like what Michigan has there in the trenches. The Wolverines have been weak at quarterback. They've been weak at wide receiver. We know this. The offensive line has had its struggles. But this is one of the nation's best, if not still the nation's number 1 defensive line, with how they get to the quarterback, how they shut down the run. And the offensive line has showed some juice, particularly against USC. And I think it's gotten better on an average basis the longer the season has gone on. That's typically what happens when you have talented players, but they're young and don't have a lot of starts and experience, not just on their own accord and by their own merit, but also together as a cohesive unit. I think this is Michigan's biggest advantage here, and their number 1 reason why they will win this game. You look at Washington, meanwhile, who defensively, they've performed well, but they're averaging opponents to run for 3.6 yards per carry. They're allowing 2.2 more rushing first downs per game than Michigan has, and they're allowing 113.5 rushing yards per game as well. They do not have the quality of run defense or pass rush that Michigan has. You also look at Washington's rushing offense. The Huskies, I think, have done a good job running the football this season, particularly with Jonah Coleman, who came out red hot against Rutgers, one of the nation's worst rushing defenses, I know, but still an impressive performance. Washington has ran the ball for 5.4 yards per carry, which is more than Michigan, 169.5 yards per game, which is less than Michigan. That's because they run for 6.5 fewer attempts per game. Keep in mind the stats I'm reading to you do not count FCS games. So the game against Weber State is not counted in here from teamrankings.com statistics. However, I will say, including the fact that Washington's played an FCS opponent and Michigan has not, and Washington has not played a team close to the caliber of Texas, I imagine that Rutgers is at a similar level to USC. Michigan's played a tougher strength of schedule and yet is still doing better, in many cases far better, in the trenches than Washington is. And that is a huge mismatch, especially when you look at the Big Ten, where trench play as a whole and then the interior of the trenches matters a lot, and Michigan is elite in the interior of the trenches, mainly on the defensive side. Before we continue with this video, Reason number 2 being Khalil Mullings and also Donovan Edwards, but especially Mr. Mullings, who just trucks through defenses. I want you, yes you, to subscribe to the channel, to click the notification bell, to like the video, share it with other college football fans who are invested in the sport. Comment 5 reasons why you believe that Michigan football will win this game, or if you struggle to believe that Michigan can win, which is understandable. Big Ten teams don't do well on the West Coast, at least historic Big Ten teams. Obviously, the ex-Pac-12 teams on the West Coast are not going to have a problem playing in the West Coast. But if you struggle to find reasons as to why Michigan can win due to any amount of variables where Michigan has struggled, at least try and give me 1, 2, or 3 reasons in the comment section why you think Michigan may be able to win. Also, join our Discord server via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment to join a dedicated, joyful, and I don't know really how else to put it other than energetic college football server where we talk about college football 24/7. Do those things, like, subscribe, share, comment, watch the whole thing through, and join the Discord server. That helps you out. That helps us out. We're only 800 or so subscribers away from our giveaway at 20,000 subscribers, so you won't want to miss that. And reason number 2 is, again, Michigan's rushing game, which plays with reason number 1, the trench advantage. But Khalil Mullings by himself has done a lot for Michigan's rushing offense. The offensive line, I would still classify as good, but it is not at the level of the 2021, 2022, or 2023 offensive lines. And Donovan Edwards is not a feature back type player. So Michigan, really after that first 2 games, it was pretty clear that Khalil Mullings was the ideal running back for this offense because he can truck guys, he can break tackles. You can run him 20 to probably 30 times a game if you wanted to, and he would stay healthy and his production would not fall off all that much. Him and Edwards combined have 136 total carries this year, 798 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. Donovan Edwards has gotten involved in the receiving game, especially recently, but Michigan's offense is limited here. We're talking about an offense that is only averaging 5.3 yards per pass attempt, that has more interceptions thrown than touchdowns, and whose receivers are averaging 8.5 yards per completion. Yikes. But I think that these 2 players behind an offensive line that is getting some experience and solidifying itself as a unit that can run block and that is good at run blocking overall. I think that pass blocking is still an area of concern, especially with Evan Link. I think that Michigan will be able to run the football here against a Washington defense that is well coordinated, that did a respectable job at times against Rutgers in slowing down the run, but ultimately Kyle Monangai was able to find holes, get some big gains. He was able to break several tackles. I do think that Michigan right here, with a deep running back room, with a good offensive line, and with a mobile quarterback as well to make Washington's defense honest, they're going to be able to run the football. They're going to try to. It's not a guarantee that they will succeed. See the Minnesota game. But odds are, given what I've seen from Washington, what the numbers tell us, and what Michigan's performance on the ground has told us, that Michigan will be able to run the football here, especially with running back 1, Khalil Mullings. Reason number 3 are the cornerback room. Will Johnson and Jair Hill. And Jair Hill has really stepped up in these previous few weeks. He's improved, and Will Johnson is an elite player. It sounds like he's going to be healthy for this game. Another player who will likely be healthy for this game is Josiah Stewart, who had a huge performance against USC, missed that Minnesota game. It sounds like those 2 players who are All-Americans, I think, on defense will be back, which is huge. Stewart being back is big for these corners as well because, well, his presence and his ability to get to the quarterback is going to take pressure off of this secondary, which has had some holes, has had some struggles, but I'm beginning to think that that's more on the safeties than the corners here. You look at 7 passes defended, 3 interceptions, 2 of which have went for 6, and all around just good coverage. Michigan's secondary has rebounded a little bit from what we saw primarily against Texas, where every third down conversion, it felt like, well, Michigan gave up a conversion because every third down attempt that Texas had practically turned into a third down conversion. I have been impressed with Michigan's passing defense against USC for the first half, first 3 quarters against Minnesota. It is not without weaknesses, though. Not without weaknesses. And this is something that I will talk about in my 5 reasons why Washington can win video. If Washington does not turn over the football and they are high in completion percentage like they have been, and they're able to run enough to keep Michigan's defense honest, Washington could win and perhaps even pull away in their home field environment. Michigan right now in pass defense, they do lag behind many teams. They lag behind what I expected them to be in pass defense. Now, granted, they're facing 41.6 opponent pass attempts per game. Everyone's passing on Michigan. Everyone, whether that's Texas, whether that was Fresno State, whether that was Minnesota or Arkansas State or USC. And I mean everyone. Miller Moss at over 50 pass attempts. Everyone's passing on Michigan. Michigan is allowing opponents to complete 61.06% of their passes, which is 63rd. It's not good, but it's better than Michigan being 127th in opponent completions per game. It's because, again, everyone is passing on Michigan disproportionately compared to other defenses. Michigan, they force opponents to have 16.2 incompletions per game. Opponents pass on Michigan for only 6 yards per attempt, which is 21st, and 9.8 yards per completion, which is 20th. So despite the fact that opponents pass for Michigan for nearly 13.6 more attempts on Michigan's secondary than Washington's, they're allowing identical numbers in opponent yards per completion. Michigan is allowing more in opponents' yards per pass, though. That is because, well, Michigan is allowing more completed balls. They have allowed some deep shots this season. And in the intermediate passing game in particular, I do think that there are some vulnerabilities. But this is a good cornerback room. Will Johnson's an All-American. Jair Hill is definitely growing and has played some good ball in these previous 2 games in particular, especially against Minnesota, where Will Johnson didn't play and he stepped up. Reason number 4 why I believe that Michigan will win this game is their game-controlling tempo. Did you know that Michigan burns 31.4 seconds per play? And did you know that that is 132nd in all of college football, which means only 2 teams chew the clock more than Michigan does? This is a more extreme tempo than Michigan's was last year. And Michigan was one of the teams in 2023 that tried their hardest and were successful at taking advantage of the new clock rules, where Michigan would convert third downs, they would extend drives, they would milk the clock as much as they possibly could, and then they would score. It's why, despite the fact their offense in productivity, like points per play, yards per play, passing offense, rushing offense took a step back from 2022, but the passing offense compensated for that. It's why they scored fewer points in 23 compared to 22, despite having an obviously superior offense, because they took advantage of the new clock rules and they were able to more reliably convert third downs and extend drives, whereas the 2022 offense had more big plays and was more of a boom or bust offense. This season, Michigan does not have the same type of balanced attack or diversity on offense that they did last season. So what they've done is they've essentially turtled. They're running way more, and I mean way more than they're passing, and they are trying to milk the clock. They're not always perfect at it, and I think that Michigan does have some issues with coaching this season, but Michigan's strategy right now is, I'd say, a lot of what Minnesota's has been in the past under PJ Fleck, or Iowa's under Kirk Ferentz. You're just turtling, you're accepting your limitations, you're trying to develop some niches and wrinkles to keep opposing defenses honest so they don't stack the box or send all-out pressure every play. And I think that, well, right now it's Michigan's best strategy. Look, they are running. This season, Michigan's offense is rushing the football for 38 attempts per game, which is 40th. But they're passing for, and this is absolutely rich here, 21.6 attempts per game. That's 127th. 127th. And their rushing yards percentage is 62.8%. So over 60% of their yards is due to running the football. And 62% of their plays are rushing plays. They're running right now 62 to 38. 38 passing, 62 rushing, which is a pretty extreme combination there. Michigan is top 5 in rushing yards as a percentage of total yards, and they are 15th in percentage of rushing plays as for total plays. So I think that Michigan's game-controlling tempo, you take away possessions from Washington, you take away drives from Washington, plays, scoring opportunities, all for a Washington offense that's done a very good job moving in between the 20s, but they have a very hard time punching it in for touchdowns, and their red zone efficiency is not good. And with Grady Gross's struggles against Rutgers kicking the football, I also have to factor in that maybe his confidence is a little bit broken, and I don't know if he is going to be as accurate as he was in Washington's first 4 games. So that's reason number 3 is Michigan taking away possessions from Washington, maximizing their own in the sense of being able to extend drives mostly by running, and they'll just chew seconds and manage the clock properly. And that's a big part of the reason why I think that they can and will win this game. Finally, and this is reason number 5, because Michigan's passing offense is horrific. It's not a good unit, but I think it's improving enough to maybe in this game get some conversions, get some yards, make Washington's defense question themselves just enough for Michigan to come out with a win. The tight ends are healthy. Edwards is being utilized more as a receiver out of the backfield. He was also lined up in the slot, I believe, or I'm not exactly perfect with positions, but he was lined up as a receiver, not a running back out of the backfield to be used as a receiver. And Orji's improving. He looked much better against Minnesota than he did against USC. And USC and Minnesota have similar calibers of defenses. I think that USC's is better coordinated. It's better coached, but USC is still a ways away in terms of player quality on the defensive side of the football. Minnesota is a similar level to USC in terms of player quality on defense, and they do have a good defensive staff in my mind. So even factoring in the difference in opponent, I think that Orji has improved. Right now, he is still very limited, much more comfortable as a runner and scrambler, and you can see that when he passes the football. But I think the improved passing offense, Loveland being healthy, Marlon Klein and Hogan Hansen being used at tight end. You also have Edwards being used to help a receiver core that is struggling to catch the ball, struggling to get open and get separation. This will help Michigan's offense not necessarily become more balanced, because I don't think they're going to try and pass the ball a whole lot against Washington, but it will help them to pass better when they do throw the football the few times that they do. They're maximizing the few passing plays that they have rather than expanding their passing playbook. And I think that the former is what's going to happen in this game. And that's what you want here, because even if Michigan's passing offense does drastically improve, that's simply going from bad to below average or average. Michigan already has a good, great rushing offense. You want to focus on diversifying that and improving that to be near elite or elite, and just focusing on what you know Orji and his receivers can do in passing the football to occasionally keep defenses honest. So that's reason number 5 why I think Michigan will win this football game. And that's it. Thank you all very much for watching. And before we finish off, go blue, as I do for now all of my videos where I give 5 reasons why each team in a specific matchup will win for games where I think there's a sizable chance for both teams to win, I'm going to be supporting each team in the video. So for this video, since it's about Michigan, go blue, you'll see a go Huskies in the 5 reasons why Washington will win video. Again, hit the notification bell if you want to get notified for that. And thank you all so much for coming on here. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Thanks to Crash2488 and Brasco Rascal for being Heisman members. Thanks to Chris Lane, Connor Little, OH, Ismar, Tyler 9, Chilton Kush for being All-American members. Thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Seal, Austin Christmas, and Shanisha Cockrell for being All-Conference members. And make sure to check out my Patreon page, merchandise store, and Discord server via the links in the description and down below in the pinned comment. Have a great day, guys. Go Huskies and go blue.